Hi, Adventures in Theaterland.
Thank you for joining us at Adventures in Dataland once again to discuss your new show, Pacific Overtures.
Thank you. Thank you.
Firstly, I just wanted to say, honestly, you've had an amazing year, so congratulations. It's been amazing seeing you.
It's
It
been a
just,
good year. It's been a
yeah,
great start of a new one. So hopefully this year will be even better or different or more exciting. Let's see.
absolutely. And I've got to say, I absolutely love the decorations behind you, just a milestone collection of everything you've achieved over the past few years.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, that's my wife's little surprise for me. I woke up and she had plotted it out. She had framed all the posters. I usually just keep it in, you know, I'm unfortunately a clutter bug. So I just keep it and get lots of like these little souvenirs from different shows, and I just keep it at the closet or something. And then she brought them all out, and yeah, laid it out. It's quite nice.
I'm just going to dive straight into the questions, if that's okay.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go.
Okay. You've been a part of four musicals last year, two of which were with a primarily Asian cast telling Asian stories.
Yeah,
How did it feel to be part of, this sort of shift in theater and representation?
I don't know. I didn't really see it that way. I just, I don't usually intentionally look for, Asian stories to come out. Of course, if there are Asian stories that's always really good. But I like stories full stop. And I think like my first two gigs at the start of the year in 2023 hired me not because I was Asian or not, I mean, like it was hired me regardless of what race I had, which was quite nice. And I think that's quite liberating. Whereas, you know, I've done a lot of the big Asian shows, so to speak, Miss Saigons and The King and Ice, and it's just nice to know that casting directors and creatives are really opening up their minds and their ideas to actors who can breathe life into their characters that they didn't originally have in mind. I'm sure when the writers wrote Connor or even Steven for Then Now and Next and Killing the Cat, or Killing the Cat and Then Now and Next. I'm sure they had no idea that someone who looked like me could breathe life into their characters or could sing the songs in the voice of their characters until I walked into the room, which is always a testament to what we bring in the audition room and how we, conduct ourselves as actors, because it's not always about what the sketch is on paper, but how you can inform the text. And that's one of the best advice I was given in an audition room. It's not you begging for a job, it's you showing what you can give, that will solve a solution for the directors and the creatives. And I think I did that. Now, when Death Note came in and obviously Pacific Overtures, I was more excited at the fact that I could sing these songs and tell these stories, um, in this capacity. And again, like I'm not Japanese, I'm Filipino. As much as I'm excited that these are Japanese stories and East Asian stories, which is closer to home, and the proximity is closer to the culture and the life that I have back in the Philippines, it's still a world of a difference, ironically, because in the Philippines, we don't behave like the Japanese do, and we don't have the beliefs that the Japanese do. So it's still a stretch. It's as much a stretch for me to play Light Yagami and John Manjaro as it is for me to play Connor and Stephen Hayes. Does that make sense? And So I don't really look at it. It's great, I think, that new stories are being told. That I think it's a fresh variation from what the West End has to offer now. A lot of the jukebox musicals or a lot of the IP musicals, intellectual property musicals, which are like based off of films, are popping up, and some of them are really, really good. But it's nice to have something braver, like a musical based on a manga and an anime. How wild is that? Like nobody but like a Frank Wildhorn and a CDM would have the courage and the audacity to do that. But these guys did. So I'm more excited about that. And then I'm excited about Pacific Overtures because not just because it's set in Japan, but because it's one of those Sondheim shows that is really well loved, but also hardly produced. So to be part of that revival at the Menier Chocolate Factory, which is known for their Sondheim, is what really attracted me to do it the most. I think secondary is the fact that it's an East Asian story.
Beautiful. Sorry, just absolutely bombarded you straight away. Just dove straight in. Um, so you've been a part of four musicals in the past year, a back-to-back four musicals. How did you go about handling this? And did you have like a different method of preparation for each of the roles that you played?
Um, it's the same kind of preparation. What the preparation requires of me differs because the text differs. But I usually go straight into the script. I investigate the script. I discover what my character is through the written text, and I'm very geeky when it comes to that. I'm very studious when it comes to that. I dive in deeply and then mine whatever I can about my character and what's said about my character and my opinions as a character through the text given to me. And then I do a lot of research as well that coincides with the world that I'm understanding of the text, and then the music. So there's a lot of prep that goes on to it, and I think the my approach to every show is the same, where I need a good amount of time um, doing that handshake with the show, where it's just me and the text, and to really just clear my brain and clear my, you know, my worries and just kind of leave all of my troubles at the door and just really dive into the text. Because I think as an actor, that's what you can do. That's what you're hired to do, is to really be faithful to what was written. And if you have a nice relationship with the creatives, which I always aspire to have, then you can expand that world and expand your knowledge and understanding of the text. I'm so blessed to have had that with all of my projects in 2023, where I've had creative teams that were so open to hearing my input and discovering it with me, and that were not averse to me asking questions and to trying new things. I love trying things. You probably notice this when you see me in a show more than once. It's always different. Um, Different in the sense that we're human, and different stimuli will eventually like dictate how we respond, but still remaining faithful to the objectives, to the intentions of the text and the character. So yeah, I approach all of my shows the same. I just need that time where I make love to this text and to be very intimate with this text so that I have it under my skin.
Thank you for the answer.
Great.
Love it. With Pacific Overtures, specifically, you've mentioned that you had to go to school to learn the culture and to really get to know Manjiro. Could you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I say school, but the team at the Menier has a cultural consultant that have given us like a lot of like workshops on the Japanese behavior and the Japanese philosophies, particularly during the Edo period. So understanding like Shinto concepts, Shinto Buddhist concepts, and just like how we kneel, how we bow, where does our gaze take us? understanding status and like hierarchy of people. Like if you look into the shogun's eyes, they can kill you, you know. So you don't look into the shogun's eyes and things like that. And understanding all of that, so that that's the clay that you're able to play with when you're breathing life into these characters. Um, we also, I particularly had kimono school, which is like an hour and a half, with the costume designer, whom collectively Matt White, our director, and myself and the costume designer, we decided that for one of the scenes, I would like to wear the kimono and the samurai hakama in real time, because there's a way to tie these bows and there's a way to wear it. It's very ceremonious and there's a lot of tradition and respect into it. And my character has not very much to say in the show or sing, but you see him a lot. You see his growth. And that was a responsibility I took upon myself, of course, in collaboration with the creatives, to try and flesh out the arc of John Manjaro, um, given that he has not much to say. So how can I say a lot without saying much? And I think one of those opportunities was to show in the intimate audience of the Menier, like my transformation from a, you know, American loving fisherman to someone who would prefer Japan to remain closed.
Honestly, it's so beautiful to see that happening, especially with this massive transformation happening to Kayama on this side, and then this slow, quiet transitioning. Honestly, as much as I miss you singing a lot more on the show, it's just so much more powerful you doing that in silence,
You
I
know,
think.
I do like that. I mean, Death Note, obviously, I mean, that is probably one of the Olympic feats of singing, right? Which I enjoy as well, because that's really, you know, in my wheelhouse. But also, I consider myself an actor more than anything as well, which is why Pacific Overtures is something I really took to like a duck to the water. There's so much to do as an actor in Pacific Overtures, even if it's not, you know, vocally as challenging. The challenge is, and the difficulty is telling that story and communicating something far more, I guess, soulful and profound through the acting, through the song, through the acting, through song, through just the text. And I think there's something pure in that that we don't necessarily see often now, because a lot of the shows, a lot of contemporary musical theater is very bombastic and spectacular and high octane and all about, you know, how high the notes are and how many riffs you can do, and those are great. I mean, that's such a, you know, that's such a, what do you call this, a showcase for talent and skill. But I do like the old school musicals wherein it's really about the text and not so much about the actor.
Obviously, Sondheim is a master at lyrical and just bringing beautiful stories, especially through songs. So, is there like, how did you approach working on a Sondheim musical with the lyrics just being such a massive part of the story?
Repetition. You don't understand how much repetition helps in something like this. And I think it's also close to learning something like Shakespeare, wherein you need to get it in your muscles. You need to get it in your facial muscles, in your tongue. Articulation is a big deal. Excuse me. Articulation is a big deal, and yeah, particularly all of the other songs that the ensemble, and I say ensemble, but each one of them really gets a highlight in this show, and that's what the beauty of Pacific Overtures. everybody is a key player. Um, and I don't sing as much. I have a wonderful quiet song with Takuro with Kayama Eizaimon. But then Please Hello, Advantages, uh, floating in the middle of the sea. I mean, all of these, Pretty Lady, all of these songs um, are so specific and so detailed in the choice of words, but also the choice of notes that accompany these words. And it's hard. You can't be cerebral about it. You just have to do it because it needs to be in your muscles. It needs to be in your face. It needs to be in your tongue. It needs to be in all of the fine nerves of your skin before you can actually say, "Oh, I get it." You know, if you come in and think that you've understood everything before you've actually begun rehearsals for a Sondheim show, I guarantee you have no clue.
That was intense. It sounds like, a, a performer's dream, I think, being in a Sondheim show, just absorbing and becoming one with the material almost.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It really is. And so I think Sondheim has said it, or people who study Sondheim a lot have said that you don't really have to do much as an actor to inform a Sondheim character. You just have to sing the notes on the page and say the words properly. He's already done most of the work for you as an actor. And it's quite true.
Could you just walk us through your audition process and your reaction on finding out that you got the role of John Manjiro?
It was quite quick, to be honest. I came in once. I was invited to audition once to read. Oh no, twice. Sorry, I had two calls for it. One is to sing a song of my choice and to read a portion of the text. And then I got given material to learn, and not too long after. That's why I feel like it was just one meeting because it was just like a couple of days or maybe a week after. And I got asked to sing poems, the John Mandro song, and to do the boat scene of John Mandro. And that's it. And then soon after, I got the offer, and I got the offer quite early. I was still in. Was that Now and Next? Was it early? Killing the Cat. Right after Killing the Cat, I found out that I booked the job, which is quite early, which is nice. And yeah, I was really really thankful.
It's amazing. I love that someone sees you once and just goes, "Yep, this is the guy for us." Like that is so true. What a mood. Absolutely, what a mood. So Pacific Overtures obviously pays a lot of importance to the finer details of the Japanese culture. Is there anything that you hope audiences will go away wanting to research more about, or something that the audiences should pay particular attention to during the show?
There's a lot of it's obviously it's based on a historical context. Um, but the way John Weidman and Stephen Sondheim has written this piece is almost approaching it like a fable. And while these are historical characters and it's based on a lot of historical truths, they construct it in a way that it reveals a bigger truth, a larger truth, a more universal one, which, whether you're Japanese or not, you will understand. And it's anchored on the relationship of Kayama Eizaemon and John Mandro, because that relationship is essentially the relationship of old Japan to modern Japan vis-a-vis the world. And I think the takeaway is to just understand that people change and people grow. The world changes and the world grows. And with that change comes good and bad. And it's up to us really to hold on to what we value as we tread this change, because the change is inevitable.
On that, like, could you talk us more specifically on the transformation of the relationship between Kayama and Manjiro? Without spoilers, the ending scene particularly is just incredible every time.
Um, Kayame Zaimon is a samurai that was tasked by the shogun to uh, do diplomatic relationships with the oncoming Western forces. And he is, a mid-level samurai, has no idea what the shogun has gotten himself into. So he employs the help of John Manjiro, who is a Japanese uh, fisherman who got cast away by a storm. He's a castaway and got rescued by an American ship and brought to America and raised there and educated there, taught his skills and his knowledge, the wonders of the modern world in America. And John Manjiro decided to come back to Japan because he wanted to tell Japan what was happening in America. And so Kayama Izayama and John Manjiro have this relationship because now the Americans are coming to Japan. And Kayama's like, John Manjiro, you will be the guy to help me. And they find this friendship in dealing with the Americans who, prior to 1853, were thought of as barbarians by the Japanese because they had no idea who these white, hairy, blue-eyed monsters were and demons were, right? And that says a lot because we think that people who don't look like us uh, are are evil, and that's another little universal truth there. Where whatever side of the world you're from, um, and you know, Kayama Izaman realizes that they're not barbarians and they don't have four eyes and they don't eat people. They are bringing us goods like things, sugar, chocolate, guns, and all that. And then begins the opening up of Japan to Western trade. And as Japan opens up more and more over the span of like 10, 20 years, Kayama Eizamon becomes more and more Western. But when John Manjiro, at least in this story, in Pacific Overtures, goes back to Japan, he falls in love with the Japan that he missed out on in his childhood. And his entry point was learning from his friendship with Kayama Izaimon. And he becomes more and more Japanese until he becomes promoted to samurai. So you have the paths of these two friends intersecting for a brief moment and then moving toward opposite directions. And it's quite lovely to see, but also quite painful.
Absolutely. And I have to ask, how is it to learn and wield the katana,
It's the
the sword
best.
fighting thing?
I love it. I've always loved combat. I've always loved like stage combat, and I have my little certification for the rapier and dagger from the BADC. But I've always wanted to wield a katana. I love samurai films. I love ninja films, and yeah, it was really cool to finally be able to live my samurai dreams.
And finally, why do you think audiences have got to come and see this one?
One is it's a Stephen Sondheim that's rarely produced, and it's done so elegantly and so beautifully in the iconic Menier Chocolate Factory. It's a space that's so versatile and so intimate, which is nice because you're gonna. I don't think you're gonna see this show ever in this capacity again, because usually it's produced in a very bombastic, big spectacle, proscenium arch, high concept style. But Matt White, our director, who's incredible, brings this story very close to people's hearts, whatever background you're from. And it's really in your face. It's really intimate. It's 90 minutes straight through. So you're really with us from start to end. And yeah, it's performed by an incredible company, if I might say so myself.
Absolutely. Okay, so those are the big questions. Thank you so much for
Oh,
putting
thank
up just a
you.
bunch of random questions.
Land. As always, thank you, Ovia.
Thank you again for constantly joining us and putting up with all the questions and me. But yeah.
Right. And have a good one, and I'll see you soon.